Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? Carl Starfelt is a Celt for life, it feels like. He has just been announced as a new player for Celta Vigo, and Big Carl is left the club. Josh, you're just giving me the official statement there. 5 domestic honours over his time, and he's departed for a reported fee of around £4.3 million, euros, quids, whatever it is. But yeah, Big Starfelt is out, Joshy boy, and we're here for another episode of the podcast. Good to see you.
Well, good to be back on. Great to be back on. Obviously, we start with that news. It literally just came out moments before we came on, but I think it comes as no surprise. It's been rumbling away since last Saturday. Obviously, Brendan confirmed it after the game against Ross County. 4.3 million, in my opinion, is a wee bit disappointing. Swedish international had 2 years left in his deal. I think we could have got a bit more for him, maybe made a bit of profit, but at the end of the day, I think we all know one of the main reasons why he's left Celtic to head to Celta Vigo is because of his partner, Jota, who plays for Sporting. It's only about a 4-hour drive from where he's going. I think everyone at Celtic will wish him all the best. I don't think he's done the club dirty in any way, shape or form. He came on leaps and bounds, I believe, from when he initially joined. I remember that game at Tynecastle. Ange Postecoglou's first league game in charge. He was abysmal that night, and you look at how everyone's now a bit disappointed that he's leaving, because that partnership he built up with Cameron Carter, because they didn't even lose a league game when they started together, was amazing. He scored a couple of goals. His celebration, I think, with the kind of running away was quite iconic as well. So, listen, everyone will wish Starfelt all the best, and I think it's all about the replacement now.
Yeah, for sure. And Big Starfelt definitely divided opinion when he was here, and I definitely wasn't a fan of him for a very long time. Overall, it was only a short period of time where I thought he really did pull his weight, and he really did himself proud in that sense, because there was, when he first came in, so many kind of shaky moments. But I do feel that the Jacinta element of it, is obviously played a part in it, right? But I do think at this stage it's been a bit exaggerated, because if you look at Celta Vigo, they've got a little project on the go there. They're playing a bit of Moneyball themselves on a low budget, and Starfelt should go in, should improve their defence, and should get them into the top 7 in La Liga. So if you're him at 28 years of age, I know he's got 2 years left on his deal. I know we're in the Champions League and all the rest of it, but some players, we've seen it with Josip Juranovic last year, some players want to play just at the highest league they can and just try and push every bit out of their career they possibly can. And, it's one of those ones where if it was a really rubbish team, it would be super weird, I think. But, again, similar to Juranovic and, Giacomakis and whoever else, great time. Thanks for coming and all the best. We'll see you soon. Hail, hail.
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, he's 28 years old. And if we're going to sell him and then go and look at bringing in a young, talented guy who's 22, 23, who has the potential for a future selling value, that's what Celtic's all about at the minute. Starfelt was only he's 28, so he's going to, once he's in about 2 years' time, he's going to hit that kind of bit of his career where he's going to start going downhill. So I think we had him for his peak years, so to speak, I would say. I think he was excellent for us, but like I said, if we're going to go and bring in someone who's young, high potential, and I think we've seen a couple of names mentioned, we'll probably go on to speak about, but it's good to see that the club's doing that and taking no real chances of keeping him in light as well. He's probably wanted out, and I think, like you've said there with Juranovic and Giacomakis, the club are not holding him hostage and saying, no, you can't leave us, you're a good player. They're actually granting him his wishes, and I think it works well because we're going to go and bring in someone decent.
Yeah. And I was just thinking there as well, because I remember earlier, last season, been on the show talking about the whole defender situation, and I remember, because of the age profile of when we like to sell these guys, particularly the 3 that we've just kind of mentioned there in the same breath as Starfelt, I do feel that we would have probably liked to sell Starfelt, where we're definitely open to selling the guy. His contract just puts us in a position of strength where we can get some sort of fee, because if you wait past this window, you're not getting 4 million for him. This is the kind of last chance to get that kind of fee for him. And I think he did have some injuries last year as well. We didn't play any Champions League football until match day 6, the final game of the group, if memory serves me right. And I believe, and again, I said this at the time, but Moritz Jens was probably meant to be his kind of replacement. I was a big fan of Jens more Starfelt. Certainly, I thought keep you in Starfelt. And when you see, the kind of moves he's been on. So I kind of, I've been a wee bit sceptical about the level of some of the transfers we've been getting. Like Navratilova, first of all, 4 million. You're thinking, for me anyway, I was thinking, didn't know anything about the guy. 4 million quid is relatively significant. Is it a bit of a gamble? Is it a bit dicey? But from game one, he's won me over quite a lot. Yeah. So this Lager Bielke, I think, we can give the scouting department a hard time. It's in some cases for maybe not pushing the boat or whatever, but I do think certainly the last bunch of defenders we've been picking up, Yuki Kobayashi to a side, there's not really been many misses. So this Lager Bielke gets a good write-up. We had a great interview on the channel early this week with Anel from over from Sweden who broke the news. If you missed that, it's on the channel now. You can go and check it out. But Lager Bielke definitely has a decent profile as well, Josh. And like you say, it's just all about moving on and getting the next one in. And the club, we like getting these guys in at 23, 24, particularly in defence. Navratilova now, and then Lager Bielke, they're both in that same kind of age range. The main worry I have with that, but it's similar to if we're playing Burnaby in the Champions League or whatever, is with them being so green, with them being so wet behind the ears, are they Champions League level? Are they actually enhancing us, or are they just keeping us where we are? Is the worry with that. How do you feel about that kind of element of the transfer policy, that it's not a bigger and better signing?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a bit of a risk, like you say. Obviously, you're bringing guys in who are 23, 24, and a lot of them probably haven't even played Champions League group stage football. Like Navratilova probably hasn't had any experience of that. The likes of Gustav Lager Bielke, don't think he has. He's probably played in qualifiers, but I don't think he's played Champions League football either. So definitely it is a bit of a risk when you think of when Celtic play in Champions League, particularly last season, where we're saying one of our downfalls was it was the likes of Rio Hatate, Kyogo Furahashi's first time playing in the Champions League. And we were very critical. We were using that as not an excuse, so to speak, but it was one of our points that we were talking about. And now you're bringing guys in who are not got any experience in the Champions League. It's going to be their first time playing in the Champions League as well. It could be a bit of a concern, but as we say, we do have guys. They're going to be playing alongside players like Cameron Carter-Vickers, Callum McGregor, Joe Hart, who are going to help and coach them through that. And Brendan Rodgers is a terrific player. He has a great relationship with his players, so hopefully he can only help them use that experience for good. I think Lager Bielke, he gets a lot of plaudits in Sweden, definitely, over what I've read on social media. Looks a talented player, good in the air, goal threat from corners, good on the ball as well. I don't know if I think the plan would be to have Carter-Vickers and Navratilova as your first choice centre backs, and then probably Lager Bielke as a third, then someone like Welsh or Kobayashi or Scales maybe as your fourth. But I feel like it would be a good signing, but at the same time, like we've said, they do have that risk in them with the Champions League aspect and the lack of experience. But you've got players who can help them.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And big Navratilova looks the part, so I'm happy to keep going and rolling with the punches in the defensive front, And like you say, there is a lot of question marks there, but the Celts are here. We were invited into Lennoxtown, into Pittodrie Park.
Yeah, Lennoxtown yesterday. Yeah.
I'll try that a wee bit again. Sorry. But the Celts are here. We were invited into Lennoxtown, and Josh, you were there in attendance talking to Brendan and getting the lowdown on, the latest and greatest of what's going on, the moves and shakes, the ins and the outs.
Yep. There was a lot, to be fair. We got a good 20 minutes chatting to the gaffer. I think a couple of points as well, even before I went into the press conference. Big Yuki Kobayashi came down the stairs at the reception wearing a moon boot. So I don't know how long he's going to be out with that for. We've got quite a lot of injury problems. We'll go on to speak about those later. But in terms of recruitment, he kept his cards quite close to his chest regarding Kieran Tierney. He was asked about that. Brendan said he's not going to get drawn in on. Well, I said his words were he doesn't deal with what ifs. And he said Kieran had a great time here, but that doesn't mean to say he's going to come back. Brendan said he wants to add to the squad. Just reading here from my notes that he wants to add to the squad going forward before the end of the window. Asked him about the goalkeeping situation. He said Scott Bain, very loyal, great servant to the club, understudy who's a modern goalkeeper. Asked him Siegrist. He said he's came in, not seen as much of him, and he's not very played as much as we know. We've not really seen much of Benjamin Siegrist apart from the first half against Athletic Club. Then Joe Hart went and speak with Joe Hart. He said he's an ambitious goalkeeper. He knows he's coming towards the end of his playing days, but he wants to maximise those playing days, and he's working ever so hard to do that. Brendan says he's a great guy who makes crucial saves. It's about assessing the situation though. He's got 3 weeks left, and by that time, he hopes he has everyone on board for an exciting season. So going by that, I feel like he's going to look to assess it, obviously, like he said, over the next couple of weeks, but potentially with the view of getting someone in. And I think if we do get someone in, it'll be a case of one in, one out. And if we were to get one out, I feel like it would be Benjamin Siegrist, given the praise he gave to Bain and Hart. In terms of, obviously we spoke about Tierney, he spoke about the Champions League as well. He said he wants supporters to dream, but he's also a realist. He says whatever team Celtic have, it's going to be a challenge in Europe. So that was quite interesting. But yeah, I think there's a lot of good points to take, and it was obviously great to speak to the manager on Wednesday.
The Tierney one's funny, right? Because when the Tierney rumours first came out, like, let's say a couple of months ago, I was very much like, nah, that's too much of a backwards move or whatever, right? But I don't know. Would you take him in for the Champions League on loan for the time? It still does just feel like a backwards move, eh? Like, I think, like Tierney, like, he's also had a great time, and I think he's got some interest as well, reportedly from Real Sociedad over in Spain for a loan. Personally, like, I think like the next Celtic left back should be Andy Robertson, if you know what I mean. Like, see if we are like thinking about like the next time we go and spend money on a left back, we should be looking and waiting for him to come out at Liverpool, because that's the time to get him probably. So that's kind of where I stand. There's always room. Tierney's a wee bit younger than Robbo, so there's always room for like Tierney later as well. So I wouldn't want to miss out on the opportunity to go for Robbo when it becomes, let's say, practical. So that's kind of where I stand on that personally. But the goalkeeper one, Josh, it just won't go away. It's one of those ones that we're forever talking about and forever looking at, because it's just blatantly obviously it has to be top of the agenda.
Definitely. We seen it on Saturday as well. Like, I think one of the instances in the first half, there was a bit of confusion at the back. Tony Ralston went to head it back to Johnny. I don't know why he just didn't put his foot through it. He chested it down, and Simon Murray nearly got in on goal. So definitely there is concerns, but I just want to get to 3 weeks from now and see if we've signed someone, which I hope we do.
Yeah, well, I was having this discussion on Tuesday night on the CSC live stream that we do, and a lot of the targets around most of Europe that you might be familiar with, like up-and-coming goalkeeper types or whatever, a lot of them are getting snapped up and they've moved now, so the market is moving away from us in that respect. A lot of people on this channel in particular, we're very much in the Livakovic bandwagon. We hope we kind of move in that direction. But there's one or two other goalkeepers that might be floating around now that are maybe in that kind of mold. Like I was saying on the CSC, like Trubin, who was the Shakhtar goalkeeper that we played against recently. I thought we should have pushed the boat out and, I'd have broke our transfer record to get him in personally. But he's moved to Benfica for something like 8 to 10 million euros. I forget the exact number. But he's going to be displacing a guy by the name of Odysseus, who is now the Greece number one. I know that'll give people some cold shivers down their spine, perhaps, the thought of that. But a very good goalkeeper. He's in his mid to late 20s, and potentially in the same price bracket, has Champions League experience as a national team goalkeeper, same kind of price bracket as Livakovic, meaning. So he's maybe somebody else, because it feels like with goalkeeper, they don't want to entertain any young players, because all the young up-and-coming prospect types, like I've mentioned, are all kind of getting snapped up, and we've not even been in the conversation for any of them, which is the most disheartening thing for me. So if that's just not the age profile we're after, if it is someone that's closer to 30 rather than, or maybe it's... I think with goalkeepers, one of the main metrics is, for me personally, is always appearance count, which is why the links to guys like Kelleher, or there was another number 2 as well where we're linked to from England. I forget who it was. But the number 2 types, I'm always kind of a wee bit standoffish with them, because I like guys with, high appearances, kind of thing. So do you think it is maybe that it is an older goalkeeper we're after, maybe not a wonder kid?
It could be potentially, but I think the issue is I think he's only seen like the likes of the three of them play a couple of times, and he's probably still looking at it and assessing it. But I'm sure the club at the same time do have, because obviously we know what happens with the recruitment. Mark Law, head of the recruitment, will scout out the players, so they're definitely going to have players in mind. And I would hope, like you say, it's someone with a bit of experience. You don't want to bring in someone like you said, Kelleher, like maybe even Kieran Slicker at Man City, like who are going to come in and not like have the experience, or going to be commanding in front of players like Cameron Carter-Vickers, you're going to want someone who's not afraid to go and shout at the defence for making the mistakes, So you're going to want someone who has experience. I don't know if the club will be looking someone who's upwards of 30. I heavily doubt it. Maybe potentially in that kind of 27 to 28 age bracket. We've seen Livakovic, obviously the links were clear there. So he's in that same age bracket, 27, 28. Not too old for a goalkeeper, just coming into his peak years. So I feel like maybe that's someone the club could look at, because Joe Hart definitely is getting on. We know we need a replacement. And he'd done this for a couple of years, because we did bring him in when he was like 32, 33. So maybe they'll look for a more long-term solution, because Joe Hart was certainly, I feel, a stopgap for a couple of years. And I wouldn't want to have him for more than the time needed. So I feel like maybe they're looking at someone in a younger age bracket than what we brought Hart in.
Yeah. The last time we done that was Fraser Foster, really, and that initially, and that worked out brilliantly. So if you are going to go and get somebody like that, I think they need to be an exceptional talent. And Forster was, for a goalkeeper, he's a physical presence. He's just, he covers the goal frame fantastically. He can fly through the air. And then obviously since then it's been the likes of Gordons and Hearts and whoever, guys with a bit more miles on the clock, as it were. So yeah, one name I would throw out there just for anyone listening, but one that I would, if we are going to go for somebody that's a wee bit more, maybe he's just made tons of appearances and get some credentials. I'm quite close to this because I watch a lot of Spanish football, right? But there's a goalkeeper in Spain called David Soria, who's 30, Real Madrid, like ex-academy guy, and he won like the Goalkeeper of the Year award in Spain like 3 or 4 seasons ago. He was linked to Real Madrid this summer, and like he didn't want to go and sit and be on the bench for Real Madrid, but he is like kind of on the market, and now I think his contract must be up next year. It's hard to get details on his contract. It won't cost very much anyway, but he is an incredible goalkeeper. Like he is genuinely, he's decent enough with the ball at his feet that I think any of these modern philosophy tactics, he would maybe not quite get into a lot of those elite teams, but he's not terrible with his feet or anything like that. But saving and in the box and all that kind of stuff that you want your goalkeeper to do, the guy is exactly what you want, So if we're going to do something shrewd, because I seen them, I don't think it definitely wasn't Celtic here. I think it was one of the other Celtic fan websites. I forget which one to credit them. I'm really sorry. But somebody linked us to Andre Lunin, who's the number 2 at Real Madrid. And that, that's maybe got something in it. But if we are looking at Spain, I'd rather go Soria personally. But so yeah, I just thought I'd throw that out.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of good options out there, but it's just about the club picking the right one. I think certainly, like we said, if we want someone with experience, Soria could be a good shout. I don't know what the situation with his wages would be. A La Liga club coming to Celtic, but like you say, we're just going by speculation now and throwing names out. Don't know who my first choice would be. You obviously know more about other markets than I do, so I think you're probably the more educated to comment on that. But like you say, there's a lot of good options, I believe, and I think hopefully the club pick the right one if we pick any.
Too much time on my hands is probably the best way of thinking about it. But do we think left back, before we leave the tier, anything to one side and whatever, do we think left back is something that has been looked at? Has Taylor done enough? Has Bernabe done enough? Because Bernabe's been injured, I think, for that first game. So some people are saying to me maybe he would have started if he was fit.
Potentially, yeah. And obviously he wasn't in the squad, and I think he scored twice in pre-season and he looked good. I've always said I think the wee man will suit Brendan Rodgers' play style more than Greg Taylor, getting up and down that left-hand side. I mean, Greg Taylor wasn't bad at the weekend, but it's Ross County, so he should be doing well. I think obviously the Tierney links are just paper talk, in my opinion. We've not been linked to a left back outside that, so I don't know I think if we were linked to a left back, then you could say it's a position the club's exploring it, strengthening in, but because we've not, potentially not. But you never know with Celtic these days. Like links will come out the night before and the deal will be completed the next day. So yeah, it's interesting. But if we do have 2 options there, I don't really see signing another until one of them goes.
Yeah, the 1 in, 1 out mantra that we're getting. So we've got some, and in the notes it's been categorised as ultra deadwood, and that feels, quite apt. Albion Ajeti is firmly doing, what I used to call the Bobo Baldi, but I don't know what you would call it. Maybe the Carlos Tevez, or I don't know what the modern equivalent would be, but he's just saying, I'm sitting on the last year of my deal, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah. We've got Sorrow McCarthy, Kobayashi, of course, in the space boot, like you were saying earlier, and Welsh and Scales, So with it being 1 in, 1 out, like part of the quote that I heard, and you'll be able to speak on this better than me, Josh, was like Brendan saying there's guys that want first team football and they're going to get that. Those deals will be kind of moved on in the next coming weeks or so. And based on previous quotes, I'm thinking Welsh and Scales when he says those things. How did you read that? And is there anyone else you would put into that frame?
Into the frame, I'd put Mikey Johnston as well. He is dealing with a long-term injury, in fairness, but I don't know if he's someone that will stick around potentially with the amount of wingers we have at the club. With one in, one out sort of thing as well, talking about the likes of Scales and Welsh, I would certainly take that as certainly deadwood that's going to be cleared. I can't think of many other players Brendan would be talking about there other than those two. And if that is the case, we'd probably expect Kobayashi to stick around, or maybe even we sign another centre-back along with Flagger Bielka. If you're letting go of the two boys there, we heard Anthony Joseph on the pod last week talking about Scales to Aberdeen. They want him in a permanent transfer, so maybe that could be one that's being completed. And then Welsh, it's either, I think, I've seen something on Twitter that he's been offered a role in the team, but if he wants first team football, he can leave. So I think, I don't know what Welsh's future looks like. He is a homegrown quota player though, which we don't have many of these days. David Tumble's another one of those. But yeah, there's a lot of deadwood. Sorrow is my other sorrow. I was waiting to get in yesterday and he walked out at Lennox Town with a tracksuit on and straight into a taxi. I don't think he can drive. So there's him, there's James McCarthy. I haven't seen a picture of him on Celtic social media channels in donkey's years. Same with Sorrow, same with Ajeti. So I think those three are in the same bracket outside Scales and Welsh, who are actually contributing now, along with Kobayashi as well. But I think it's similar to the PSG undesirables situation, if you've seen that going about on social media. That's like what Sorrow, Ajeti and McCarthy are for us. They're probably training alone or whatever and just having good vibes, enjoying their time, picking up their weekly wage without doing anything. But we'll see what happens. I think I would expect them all to move on if the club do find potential suitors. I know there was a move to France and League 2 for Sorrow. I don't know how that turned out though, if it fell apart or whatever. But
I think that's true. I think that has went through. I was kind of thinking as we're talking, I'm sure something happened with him. He's actually gone.
Yeah, he was still at Lennox Town yesterday, but
was he?
Yeah, that's what I said. He came out the building, he's tracksuit on, straight into a taxi, so he's still cutting about. But obviously, I don't know what's happening with that League 2 move. But there is deadwood. Rodgers will want to clear it because it's taking up part of the wage budget as well, which the club will want to cut down if we're signing new players. So they want to get rid of them, but it's just a case of finding teams who are willing to take a player like Albion Ajeti, like who's barely played over the past couple of years, struggled with injuries. You're probably going to struggle to find a good team that's going to pay his wages, because at the end of the day, he's going to want to go to someone who's paying him the same amount as Celtic are paying him, and that's probably going to be a struggle to find. If like the teams that are going to be interested in him are probably going to be less than Celtic, and they can't pay as much. So it's a tough predicament, but at the end of the day, we'll have to just wait and see what happens with all the players. Like, I think Rodgers definitely wants rid of him, but we'll just...
I definitely get the feeling that Liam Scales to Aberdeen would only happen after we play them, because if it's not on loan, then we can't stop him from playing against us for the rest of the season. So with that being match day 2, I've kind of been thinking that a wee bit myself. So I've got his cards on Surrey, and I'm kind of waiting to use them for when that move happens. But we see with Welsh, I feel the same way about Ralston. I do feel the same way about Mikey Johnson and Forrest, that if at all possible, keep the guys in the club, because if you can get these guys to stay around forever and to a decent enough level, touch wood, and hope it doesn't happen anytime soon, obviously, but one day Carter Vickers will move on, and when you're in these transition periods, you do want to have like a foundation of a Celtic identity in the team.
Definitely.
So I'm glad Welsh has been offered the role. It really will come down to him, but if he fancies doing that the now and waiting for his time to really then come into his own later on, or if he wants to go and join this Italian job revolution, probably, or maybe jump into the Championship or something. But I think Welsh is good enough to, if we give him a role, maybe by the time he is 27, we could be like, Vickers leaves and we go, we've got Welsh, don't need to buy anyone,
definitely,
because he's developed and came on so much, potentially. So I don't think that kind of future is thought about often enough, perhaps with the fans, myself included. But I do like the thought of these guys being offered the chance to stick about to help the club ultimately through years.
Like these guys are proven domestically. Like we've seen Tony Ralston can do it in the Scottish League, maybe not in Europe in the Champions League, but he can do it against teams like Ross County the weekend. As can the likes of Stephen Welsh, Liam Scales. So they're good guys to have around. They're squad players, so to speak, and they can stay, and then potentially, like you say, they're still only young, so they can develop and become even better. So it's only good to have.
Yeah, Scales feels more like a flip opportunity for Celtic, but because we've bought him in from Ireland, had him in for a year or two, and then
I feel like as well there's potential to even make profit on that. I don't know, like bring him in for 500 grand. I don't know if Aberdeen will pay upwards of that, but still.
Well, based on the way Aberdeen did their deals for Duke and a few other guys recently, like you could probably give them to Scales to Aberdeen for a few quid and then 50% on next deal.
Yeah,
because they've done something similar with Duke. I know Scales isn't in the same category of transfer as that, but like that's the way they're structuring business. So, it could be a good one for sure. Because then if they sell them to the Championship for 4 or 5 mil, you're in for a bit of that. Yeah. That's good fun.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
But yeah, so the goalkeeper situation, just to kind of, I'm just going to get into all this as a kind of whole. We're definitely the consensus. It feels like the policy is 1 in, 1 out. Yeah. So for goalkeepers, we need to wait for Joe Hart's contract to run out, which is in 12 months, or we need somebody to come and take Siegrist. So that's what we're keeping our ear to the ground for, perhaps. And then, so let's say Welsh and Scales leave. You have to hold Kobayashi because he's injured. We bring in Lager Bielke, so you've then got Vickers and Navrachi in front of them. That's your 4 centre-backs. 2 at left-back, 2 at right-back.
Yeah.
Part of the other thing I was trying to throw at you there, I was wondering if you would catch it or if you would throw it in there yourself. But in terms of when Rodgers says guys that have been offered a role but they want to play first-team football, and that'll happen in the next couple of weeks, and we've discussed Scales and Welsh. In the same breath, could we be actually talking about Rio Hatate?
I know Rodgers did not mention Hatate one bit yesterday. Nobody asked him about Hatate. He didn't start at the weekend. I think potentially maybe people reading too much into that. I'm not entirely sure because David Turnbull, he was sharp in pre-season and simply was on better form than Hatate. Thus he got the start. You never know, but Hatate, the rumours on social media are rife. There's a video that came out the other week or the other day that was of Hatate just walking right up to the bus and not signing any fans' shirts. But I think you can't read anything into that. Like, you've just played football and you want to just get up the road to your family and you're having to sign shirts. That is part of the job, but at the same time, he doesn't need to do it. So maybe people reading too much into that is like he wants away. I just think Tumble's in better form and he's playing. But I feel like if the right money did come in for Hatate, I think the club could potentially look at selling him, and I think he would be the player. He said in the past, like, my focus is on Celtic the now, but at the same time, my ambition is to play in the Premier League. So if a team did come in for him, a decent team, you never know, he might bite at the opportunity. And Celtic have not been opposed to granting players their wishes, like we've just seen with Starfelt. So you never know.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'm worried about in that sense. Because then if Hatate goes out, it's not really a worry. But then hopefully you think, right, okay, well, that's the 1 in, 1 out's kicking in again. So we've now got... Because then, again, if we're going to reverse engineer this, like we've seen Starfelt, Lager Bielke, really sharp. Navrachi we brought in really quickly. I think once they realised that, Scales, Kobayashi, Welsh, these guys weren't going to be first team. You have to go and get somebody in that's just unavoidable and then move them on later. So the 1 in, 1 out is probably set in turn there. So then if we look at the other signings we've brought in, as soon as Jota left, we signed Hyung Jun and Tilio. So is the 1 in, 1 out maybe stretched for Jota because it was a huge transfer fee and he was so good that we got 2 guys? And are they the guys that have actually came in to replace? The biggest air quotes my 2 fingers can make. Jota. That's now a worry. I
know it potentially, like, I think the thing with us now is we have so many wide men, so many wingers. James Forrest, Dyson Meneda, Sertak Sabanovic, Abada, Yang. We've got lots and lots. Like, I don't know if we're going to go out and sign another one that will replace Jota. You never know. I think we'll just have to wait and see. I think if we did get sign one, it'd be yet again the case of 1 in, 1 out. Say Haksabanovic is let go of because he wasn't even in the squad at the weekend. He's not really contributed much, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I think it's a wait and see. And I feel like Yang though did impress me at the weekend. I've seen kind of glimpses of him that obviously in South Korean outlets comparing him to Jota when he was signing for Celtic. I think I could see that air about him, but at the same time, he's not really a player like him that you've bought for £1 million from the second division in Korea. South Korea is really going to come in and replace a £25 million player Jota, like for like? Probably not. So we'll see if the club do sign another player that replaces Jota. But I doubt it unless we let someone go.
Because we've also seen at the weekend Kyogo get a lot more minutes than usual, which was lovely. Seeing O'Reilly play past the 60-minute mark was beautiful. But we've seen Dyson Maeda fill in at centre forward when Kyogo came off. And we've had the news this week that Big O's out for 6 weeks as well. So I've seen some people when the O thing came out were like, oh, we need another striker. But I found Dyson Maeda is striker number two at the moment. I think that's the versatility we've got in the front line. Yeah,
literally done it in pre-season. Scored a hat-trick against was it Yokohama? He scored a hat-trick in the first half when he was playing at striker. Previously, I didn't rate him playing in the number 9 role, but after that performance, certainly I think he can fill in there. And he's a second choice unless Kyogo gets injured. Maeda's not going to play there, so I think it's good. There was a lot of other injury issues. Brendan spoke about yesterday. Leo Labada came off in 80 minutes against Ross County at the weekend, but now he's fine. It was just a little knock. Marco Tilio is back in the grass and he'll be available mid-September. Rodgers hopes in terms of Alistair Johnston back in the grass as well. He's up in the intensity. And then obviously, like I said, Kobayashi walking around with a moon boot. So I feel like there's a lot of injury, quite a few injuries at the minute, but I feel like the club can get through them with the depth we have. You don't have this squad depth for nothing. It's for situations like this. And I feel like towards kind of November, December time, when the schedule gets really tight, you're probably looking at these guys coming in and trying to commit. So yeah, that's what the situation is now. It was a calf injury. He had it against Athletic Club, and I believe he picked up there. Then he played on Saturday, and then obviously came back in on Sunday for training, and then he hadn't really noticed it. But then the medical team picked it up, and now he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, which is a bit disappointing. But we do have more than able deputies.
Yeah. That's good. We're getting some good injury reports. It's not often we get that. So it kind of rolls us in, Josh. We're at match day 2. We're looking at Aberdeen away. We're away to Pittodrie. And I think when we seen the fixture list, I think a lot of Celtic fans thought, oh, we've actually got quite a hard start to the season. And I would still stand by, we probably do. It's definitely tough on paper. But after the way last weekend went, we're already 3 points adrift at the top. And I indulged. I've got to. I say indulged. Probably not the right word. I set myself up to watch. I watched them last night play Servette on BBC Scotland to go and have a wee peek to see some of their new signings come in and adapt. I've managed to see some of these guys before Rangers signed them, and I kind of thought 1 or 2 of them would be rubbish and 1 or 2 of them would be maybe halfway okay. But that game against Servette, by the way, they were rotten. So anyway, I actually think the first 4 games, because they're actually the way they've been, if we get this Aberdeen game right, we keep this form up, it could be some start to the season that could be incredible. So does Rodgers coming into this game, Josh, the game plan, is it stick with the best team, which is won at the weekend with a very convincing attacking display from, the likes of Turnbull and O'Reilly, Kyogo, and everyone else we've kind of mentioned in passing throughout the show? Does he stick with the same team, or is there going to be changes to go away to Pittodrie? What do you think?
I feel like it'll just plough on with the same team. Like David Turnbull scored 2 goals at the weekend. I feel like you can't really drop a player after that. Matt O'Reilly as well. He was outstanding, 1 goal, 1 assist. So you can't really drop him as well when you're looking all over the park. Abada played well. I think he's the first choice right winger at the minute. He's going to play. Kyogo's definitely going to start. Maeda, we've known Brendan Rodgers admires him. I think he'll play as well. So you're looking all over the park and you're not thinking any players that he's going to drop. And if he did do it, it would be a big surprise for me. So I feel like I've wrote an article for the site this morning that was my predicted lineup for Sunday. So I feel like it will just be the exact same as Saturday. Just there, Hart and goal, Ralston, Vickers, Nawrocki, Taylor, McGregor, Turnbull, O'Reilly, Abada, Maeda and Kyogo. So I feel like that'll be the team that goes up to Pittodrie, and I feel like Brendan, he said yesterday in his press conference that he has good memories going up there. He told, like he does in his wee kind of manner where he'll go into telling a story. He said one evening he went up and I think we rattled him 3-1, scored 3 goals in the first 10 minutes, just towards the end of the Invincible season. And so he has fond memories, but he managed up there several times. Some great wins. I remember a 4-3 victory in his third season in charge on Boxing Day. I think Odsonne Edwards scored a nice chip that day. There's some brilliant memories of Celtic going up to Pittodrie, but it is a tough ground. Can't deny that. Aberdeen finished third last season. They've got a great side. The likes of Duke, Miofsky, Johnny Hayes. They've got great players, big talent. They're going to play Hartson. They're going to play in Europe this season, so it'll be a tough game. But I feel like Celtic should be aiming for 3 points as we do. I would argue Pittodrie's the second toughest game. You could play a third toughest game, obviously behind Ibrox and then a derby at Celtic Park. So I feel like it's going to be a tough one, and the fixtures haven't been too kind to us at the start. But I was speaking to the people I go to the game with, some of my family last week, and we were saying that you'd rather have the tough fixtures now than have them when the fixture schedule's tight in November or December. And that's what Rangers are going to have, because they've got the easier run now, so they'll have the tougher run when the fixtures get tight, which is only positive for Celtic. So we just need to get these games out of the way now and get winning, and that's what we'll try to do on Saturday.
Yeah, I like that. I think as well, like Aberdeen, like I've got the stat here. We played them 4 times last season, 3 times at home due to how the split worked, and the Dons failed to register a goal. 12-0 aggregate score. The toughest game was the game at Pittodrie when it took McGregor the 87th minute, 1-0 victory. That was like the day before Christmas Eve or something.
Yeah.
If we recall, that was Jim Goodwin. Yeah. And yeah, like you say, I think the Derek McInnes Aberdeen was probably one of the strongest Aberdeens I've seen, certainly. You know, so Rodgers has beat a good team going up there, and it'll be a good team probably that goes out there. I think with the back, I think the back 4 stays the same. I don't think, unless Johnson returns from injury, I don't think there's any change in there at all. Same with the goalkeeper, but midfield is the one where I do think there's question marks coming into the game week or the weekend. I beg your pardon, because like you said there, the kind of Freudian slip, McGregor Hatate. It's just like it's almost like a double barrel name, because they've just played. It's just been stuck together. They've been joined at the hip for a year, So I think away to Aberdeen, like I don't know, dropping Turnbull or O'Reilly feels unthinkable. But it might be a slightly different game. The manager might be, like we've seen in pre-season, the pre-season games, the starting team changed a few times, but the subs rolled on. And when you marry in like the post-match comments from Turnbull and O'Reilly talking about 60, 70 game seasons and not everyone playing every week. And then like I categorised Ross County last week at home to a relegation candidate last season. That's the game on paper where you go gung-ho, where you go all-out attack, where you play the team where you're going to run them over, you're going to have all the possession, you're going to be shooting at any given opportunity. And Aberdeen away isn't that game, so I do feel that Ross County at home and Aberdeen away is quite a stark difference. It's not like Hibs at home, Hearts away, or something like that, where I think maybe you want somebody like Hatate to come into midfield and maybe look after the ball a little bit more. But then the argument is like Turnbull doesn't look after the ball, but what Turnbull does do is he plays it rapid, he plays it forward, and he plays it quick. So if that's what he wants to do, then Turnbull's fine because that's what he'll do. But how do you think about that?
I feel like definitely Rio Hatate and David Turnbull are 2 totally different players. And like you said, Ross County at home and Aberdeen away are 2 totally different games, and probably both players are probably suited to each game. Like we've said, Turnbull. Definitely the weekend, we showed why he was suited to Ross County at home. Like you said, we dominated the game, scored 2 goals, making those late third-man runs into the box along with O'Reilly. But Rio Hatate more, you wouldn't really see him doing that, getting in at the back post for a tap-in like David Turnbull did. He's more of a kind of player that will look after the ball in midfield, play forward passes, but sit back a bit more than a Turnbull or O'Reilly did. I think we'll just have to see what Brendan does, but I think if it was me personally, I'd play David Turnbull because he'll be high in confidence, and then potentially if it's not going too well, half time, 50, 60 minutes, you've got Rio Hatate sitting on the bench, you could bring him on. So that would be my opinion, but at the same time, there is definitely a big argument and a rightful argument to start Rio. You could maybe even start Rio ahead of O'Reilly and have Turnbull as your third man in midfield. That could be an option, but I feel like Matt Riley has to start for what he brings in terms of his vision going forward. He's a good ball winner as well. He's got the height in midfield going up to ground like Pittodrie. It's going to be rough. He's going to bring that as well. But I think we'll see at 10:45 a.m. and Sunday when the team news comes out what the gaffers chose. But we'll just have to speculate until now. I would go with Turnbull, but there is a good argument for it not to be.
Yeah, I think, so McGregor should be playing, of course. I think O'Reilly is borderline undroppable, really, as well. Because I think he does do so much, like, for the full team, the full kind of shape.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And the front three, Abada, it did look to be just a knock at the weekend when I watched the game. And it was just like, I think he was getting subbed anyway. It was like the 80th minute. Yeah. And it was like, who came on? Was it Forrest and Jun? Did they come on together maybe? And it was Kyogo and Abada that came off.
Yep. Yeah.
You know? So I didn't read too much into it, but it's good to hear. It was nothing, and he's right and ready to go. So the front three, there's definitely no change in that. Dyson, Kyogo, and Abada all day. And I think that front three, like we've seen how many goals, like obviously scored 4 last weekend at home at Ross County. With this even being a tougher game, the aggregate last season was 12-0, you know, and we did think Aberdeen, I thought they've got probably 2 of the best strikers in the division in Miovski and Duke, you know, so, with Joe Hart and with everything else and that we've been speaking about, defensive issues in the past and whatever, you know, they didn't score a goal against us under Ange. So let's see what they do against us under Rodgers. So should be a good game for it. I'm quite looking forward to it. I think, and it'll be a really good, 6 points to get. You know, once we finish the first 2 games off, I think it'll be a good game for a win. But I do think this could be one where, like cards will come into this decisions on the early half of the game because again, goals change matches, and if something goes against you quick enough, these games can be maybe a bit more on a knife edge than you would like them to be sometimes. Yeah,
I think definitely as well you want to win it because we're not playing in the league until 2 weeks after it. We've got Kilmarnock away in the cup, so you want to keep that 3-point lead or maybe even extend it if we can. But just keep that ploughing on in the league. After it, we've got St Johnstone at home, so that's a game you're looking to take 3 points from. So, and I think we would take 3 points from St Johnstone. So you're looking at, if we win this, you're probably looking at 9 points out of 9 going into Ibrox, which is not what they're going to have, hopefully. So hopefully we can take the win at the weekend, just get through the game. I think it's the toughest we've had so far and the toughest we'll have until Ibrox. But I think the boys should be taking 3 points. You wouldn't be too surprised by a draw, but you'd be shocked if we lost.
Yeah, I think the reason I kind of referenced that game earlier, and it's probably the same as yourself, Josh, is like because if you're Brendan, like that's the first kind of checkpoint of the season when you see the fixture list come out, so you kind of look at that game as almost like a little mini final, in a sense, because it is such a huge game, and when you see it where it is on the, it then kind of sets a second chapter ahead for the season when Europe will start to come in and all the rest of it. So that definitely pulls me back into your starting 11, where if you're the manager, maybe you're just preparing for Ibrox the whole time, and you just play the best team possible, and you just get them right fluid, ticking over, and you watch them twist in the wind with dropping points away to Kelly. Really, really terrible performance, I would say, against that Servette. Servette had 10 men for like 60 minutes or something as well, by the way. They couldn't take a man on. They didn't really look the part at all. I'm kind of just going on to Rangers bashing, which I always try to stop myself from doing because it can just go on for too long, and it's one of those ones. But so I think that then pulls me back into you play Turnbull again, and you just play the best team possible and get it ticking over. So then when you go to their bit, you've got the best chance of getting the best result. It's not just about winning, but it's as we know with these games, it's on and off the park, isn't it?
Definitely, man. But the weekend's a big game. Like you said, when the fixture list came out, I looked at it as the first big point of the season for us. You always look at Aberdeen away as one of the toughest games, so it's just about going up there and trying to get 3 points, like we've said. So as long as they can do that, I'm sure everyone will be happy, and then we'll know what the other side of the city have done because they play on the Saturday. So we'll just see what they do, and you never know. Livy at home, we might be going up to Pittodrie looking to extend our advantage or keep it, but hopefully we can just win the game, focus on ourselves and win the game.
It'd be so funny if Livingston got a draw or something, man. It would be so funny. Because Livy are a bit of a banana peel team, you
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah, definitely.
but, yeah, obviously we know the manager of Livy's. He was there last night with his season ticket.
Yeah. They drew 0-0 with Aberdeen the first game and didn't look too bad, Livy. So we'll see what that was at the
They had
20.
a bit. I actually watched like maybe 10 minutes of the game. They had a big centre back that was really impressive. I forget his name, but it was
Boy
like
Louis or something like that. Maybe.
it was very eye catching,
Yeah.
mate. It was very good on their little pitch as well. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it was really comfortable at getting around it and being a nuisance, like winning the ball back for them and stuff. So yeah, maybe Livy could be a wee funny banana peel.
I know.
And our game's on Sunday, isn't it?
Sunday, 12 o'clock, Sky Sports. Kevin Clancy, the man in charge. So
Yeah.
we'll be
Have you got a score prediction, Josh?
Score prediction. Not even thought about that. I'll give you 3-1 Celtic.
3-1 to the Hoops. I'm hoping I'll take a solid 3-0. I'll try and keep that 12-0 aggregate. Build upon that.
I think we'll concede. I can't see us going up there with the attacking talent they have, and Joe Hart in goals and Tony Ralston at right back. Maybe I can't see us not conceding a goal or two. But
I'm dreaming.
Never know. Dreaming. We'll dream.
I'm going to let the statistics let me dream on this one. Well, to anyone making the journey up to Aberdeen, travel safe. Good luck this weekend to everyone. Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Are you going to make the trip yourself?
No, I'll be in the house watching it. Never been up to Pittodrie, but hopefully good luck and safe travels to anyone going up there, and hopefully the boys can secure the win.
Won the Hoops. Hail, hail.